Hello and welcome to Surveyor Says, the podcast from the National Society of Professional Surveyors. Each week, we bring you fascinating guests that are involved in the profession of surveying. We cover a lot of ground, including Table Lay Talk with Gary Kent, Point of Order with the NSPS Joint Government Affairs Team, Future Focus, highlighting current and future leaders of the profession, and everything survey-related in between. Thanks for joining us here on the podcast, and hope you enjoyed listening to this episode of Surveyor Says. Hello and welcome to another episode of Surveyor Says. I'm your host, Tim Burch, and we've got a very intriguing and exciting guest, or at least in my opinion, I will say that. This particular gentleman came on our radar at NSPS a little over a year ago, and we were putting together some things for the student competition. And just so happens we got connected with a surveyor, reasonably hired surveyor at the National Park Service, talking today with Mr. Vince Boyd. And it was very fortuitous of us to have caught up with him because he was very instrumental in getting some things done for us there at the National Mall. And the fact that, he's a surveyor, he's working now for a government agency, but he's got a pretty a storied background like we all do. And so thought, what the heck, we're going to get him on here and see what Mr. Vince knows about. So Vince, welcome to the podcast. And guess where does it all start? I mean, how did you get started in surveying, and give us a little background on who you are as a surveyor today?
Hi, Tim. Yeah, just I started off surveying in 1985, Greenhorn, America. But I actually was introduced to surveying by George Wakefield, 1981, 82, something like that. I grew up in Cumberland, Maryland. And he grew up, and his parents was in the same neighborhood that I grew up in, and I delivered newspapers to them. But I actually started dating his daughter. So I was at their house one day, and George pulled up in the driveway, and he opened up the back doors. I was about 16, 17 years old, and he opened up the back doors on the truck, and he says, "Grab that set of legs right there and follow me." And he took off up into the woods, and he had something he wanted to do. So that was the first time that I was introduced to surveying, was then. And but then he brought me later on. He brought me into Greenhorn, America in 1985, and I worked for them for about a year. And then I went to Dewberry and Davis at the time in Annapolis, Maryland, and worked for them for quite a few years. Worked my way through. We had 4 or 5, sometimes 6-man field crews at that time. So I worked my way through that as a riding chairman into an instrument operator, and moved on into a party chief within a few years, and opening in Ellicott City, Maryland. So I moved on to Ellicott City and was a party chief there for quite years. I guess I was with Dewberry for 7, 8 years, and moved on to Western Maryland. There was a position up there, Cooper surveying some strip mines and doing some work back in the area that I grew up in Lonoconee, Maryland, Frostburg. So yep. I was there for a couple of years. Realized that the surveying profession out in Western Maryland is very difficult if you want to stay working all year round, and it really was. And plus, I guess my heart was back in this area, so I moved back down to the Frederick area. Norman Powell, he was my actual supervisor at Dewberry, and he hired me back on. He actually had left Dewberry, retired, and opened his own company with a guy named Steve Teets. So Steve Teets, Norman Powell, and a few other people. Bill Orsinger was involved with that one too.
Good old Bill, yeah.
And so we worked there for a few years, and Norman decided he wanted to go out, break away from there, and Steve actually went with Vika. So Vika Teats Powell became VICA, and then we became NA Powell and Associates, a few of us. And my wife was actually with us too. So it was only about 12 of us. Created a little company with Norman Powell. Did that for about 13 years. We all know 2008 recession hit.
Oh, yes.
Things was a little slowed down a little bit. So we, my wife and I, we decided, well, we better kind of separate from jobs. She stayed with Norman. I went on back with Dewberry, and they was in Frederick at this time. So I was working with Frederick with a man named Phil Rannenberger, and he was my field coordinator at the time when I was there back in the 80s, and he hired me back on. Him and a few other ones, Gary Krause, Eric Day, and Brian Conrad. So that's worked for them. Oh, I guess I was there 12 years until just a few years ago,
Sure.
about a year and a half ago. And I didn't really think about leaving, going anywhere. I was fine with working construction. Construction was, I guess, my issue. I like boundary surveys, and we did a lot of construction stakeout, a lot of construction layout. But anyway, I started thinking, well, there'll be something that would be really nice. It had to be something big. So the Park Service had an ad for a surveyor in the National Capital Region. I said, well, why not? I put together an application. And putting together an application for a government agency, it takes a little bit. And it was times when I was about halfway through, and I was, why do you really want to do this?
Right. Yeah.
You're 57 years old, why do you want it? But anyway, I'm kind of thinking of retirement in the next 5 or 6 years. But anyway, I applied, and I actually got an interview, and I really felt good about it, and I got hired. I got hired by the National Park Service. So it was a big decision to leave Dewberry. They was good to me for a lot of years, and I really enjoyed the people I worked with. But I'm so glad I moved on. This is something that I really always wanted to do. I even thought about going in as a volunteer. With the Park Service. I've always wanted to work for the Park Service. So now I'm working for the Park Service as a land surveyor in the National Capital Region.
Okay.
And, yeah.
Well, I guess I want to ask you right there, a surveyor in the Park Service. I mean, I guess it's not really well known that, what that job would entail. I mean, what's a day in the life of a land surveyor in the Park Service? What is that like?
I wasn't either when I got hired, and neither was anybody else. They didn't know what we was going to be doing or what was happening. I thought I was just applying to be a surveyor. I didn't realize that when I was interviewed that this was going to be putting together a new program for the surveyors in the National Park Service for the nationwide boundary management program. And I was, I think, the third one hired in the nation. So National Capital Region. So we're trying to put together a program here, and it's working. It's working pretty good. We have a very good team. My region, National Capital Region, parts of Maryland, all of Washington, D.C., and parts of West Virginia, parts of Virginia, and parks just within the National Capital Region. So I was hired for land acquisition, and that's what I'm working at. So I review deeds, review a lot of descriptions and things like that for the areas, for the National Capital Region. And go in the field. I've got a pretty nice set of equipment. I got the new Trimble R12Is and a Trimble SX12, which is very nice to use, a scanner and a total station. So it's just me right now. I work with some other people within parks, and we try We try to get things done. There's a lot more work in the Park Service than I ever would have imagined. I mean, the boundaries are wide open, but there's never been a surveyor, in
Right.
the Park Service. That's kind of where I'm at. Everybody realized that there's a surveyor now, and all the parks are contacting me. So we have a lot going on.
Well, and I got to you hit it on the head. I got to imagine that there's a lot of these parks that it is wilderness. It is undeveloped land, and there's probably a lot of unknown boundaries out there that there's deeds that go to these things, but until they're gone out and defined, it's hard to say how long these deeds have been around, and monumented or not, they've got to be retraced. So actually, I'm quite jealous of your position. That would be, that to me, that just screams land surveyor. That screams what the essence of surveying is all about. Don't get me wrong, there's topographies and construction and a lot of these other things, especially the high-tech stuff, but there's just something about retracing an old boundary that hasn't been looked at for many, many moons. And it must be nice getting up in the morning and thinking this is what you're going to go do.
It really is. I enjoy what I'm doing now. I have no construction layout anymore. I mean, there's a lot of people surveyors that really like construction layout, and that's great. And it paid my bills for a lot of years.
Oh, exactly.
But construction layout is something I just really wanted to get away from, and go into more of a boundary, looking at the boundary. I've done a lot of boundary surveys too, but it was more construction in my past. So this is great, just being able to look at the history. DC's always impressed me with the history. I've really always loved working in DC. I started working in DC in the late 80s. I mean, that's we used to go down and get jackets. So Norman Powell, myself, and just the old jackets, pull all the survey papers out and
right,
falling apart, and you could just kind of look at them. But that's what gave me an interest in becoming licensed and actually registered in Washington. I really, that was one of my biggest highlights of my profession was that. So and my Maryland license, that was my first one, and that took a while. It took a little bit.
Yeah,
I waited almost 25 years on that. So.
Oh yeah. Well, and I tell you what, having myself relocated from Illinois and that, the outskirts of Chicago, and it's, you go dealing with, stuff with after, the Chicago fire and some of the records there. I mean, it's kind of cool, but moving out here and really getting a true taste of colonial states, meets and bounds, and just that many, couple generations even older that you're having to retrace is just it's really cool stuff. And this is just a fantastic profession.
It is. It really is. The Park Service says there's so much history between the Park Service, Washington D.C., and this National Capital Region. I mean, we have a lot of history, a lot of old boundary stones too, a lot of neat looking things.
Oh yes, very, very cool things. Well, I want to fast forward to basically how we got together, NSPS and yourself with the Park Service, and getting connected with you with our 2023 student competition. I'm curious from your perspective, could share with us in getting involved in that, and then really kind of when the competition was happening those 2 days last year. As a surveyor, I mean, what did you think about the whole operation that was going on out there with young surveyors guiding students, competitors, and especially on that national mall setting? I mean, for me from my perspective, it's a little surreal, but you've been here, you've been in this area all your life, and now you're in a new role. It was in a new role with the Park Service. What was that like, seeing that happening?
That was, it was, I guess, very thrilling. I mean, it really was to see all this many interested. I was real kind of surprised that we have this much interest in the profession. I mean, it brought a lot of students, and to see them using the old T1 transits and triangulating between the Washington Monument and other monuments and pulling a chain and running the old levels and it was neat to see. I mean, everybody was happy too. Everybody was in a good mood that day. That was another thing. Everybody was just happy down there. And it was it was cold that morning when we got out there.
Oh yeah.
But everybody was interested. Everybody, just the regular public too. They was so interested in what we was doing, and we opened the mini monument, I guess, and the manhole where the mini monument is for the Washington, right below the Washington Monument. That was a neat thing. I guess that's how it started. There's a guy in Alaska that works for the Park Service. He's a GIS specialist, and he's Joel Cusick. He was in charge of the GPS on benchmark to pull together all this for the for NGS to try to get the GPS on benchmark program working out with us, and he wanted to do something at the down at the mall. He was just he emailed me and he said, we got to do something down at the mall. We're looking to do something. He said, we got to do something down there. And he didn't know what it was for sure. And so then Jacob Heck, I believe is who was with NGS. He actually notified Joel and then let Joel know that there was going to be a student event. And then Joel got a hold of me. He said, I think this would be a great time to do this. This is what we got to do. So Joel comes out of Alaska and he's asked me to help him, which I was excited about it. I don't know how we're going to do this for sure, but we're going to see what we can do. So kind of just fell into place. It really did, and it worked out really well. I got a hold of Jacob and Jacob done a lot of the work really, and Joel, and we was going to open this manhole, but it's during for the mini monument, but it's during the Cherry Blossom Festival, and there's no Park Service personnel available. So the ranger says, I can't do it. He said, I have nobody that can be there to open it and be there while it's open. And so I said, well, I can be there. I can do that. No problem. And so he got a hold of permits, and we did together, and we worked it out through permits that I could go ahead and take his place and open the manhole, and we would be fine with that. So that's how I kind of got involved with it, and it's worked out really well. Seen a lot of people, met a lot of people that I haven't seen in a while, and then all kinds of new people, new students. And it was just a great day. It really was. We was like 7 o'clock that evening.
Well, and fortunately enough, I was on Capitol Hill that day for our annual lobby day and decided to walk down. We had some time in between appointments. The year before in 22, and I'm not sure who opened the mini monument. Somebody did. Somebody with the Rangers or Park Service or somebody did. And so a select few people had gotten to see the mini monument the year before. And they came back and they were showing off pictures. And I got to tell you, I've never been so jealous of not being somewhere for something that, that's one of those things, when I've heard the stories of the mini monument for probably as long as I've been involved with NSPS, going back almost 20 years. And it's really kind of took an act of God to open that vault up. And so when they opened it in 22, it's like, oh, we have got to be able to do that again. And then so for you to get it all set up and for you to help us last year, and you're right, it was amazing, the public and what they don't really understand what it is that we're doing. And to have that small sliver of time to be able to say, this is what a surveyor does. This is what we're about. And this is all the part of history. So yeah, it really worked out well, which I guess is going to kind of lead me into, I guess this is kind of a little bit of an announcement for 2024. We've got 26 teams coming in this year. Well, we were going to cap it at 24 just simply due to volunteers, but we did have a few extra that kind of twisted our arm to do 26. It's going to be Monday and Tuesday, April 22nd and 23rd, and it's going to be a little bigger, a little more public, a little more public facing. That get the monument open again, hopefully again, and have a few agencies. And I guess in what would you say that really the public needs to know about some of the things that we're doing? I mean, yes, we're out there with antique equipment and we're doing some of these things, but from your perspective as a surveyor, what is some of the things that that the public really needs to know a little more about us? That how not saying self-serving, but we provide a very important component to the world around us.
We do, and that's where a lot of people don't really realize what surveyors do. There's so many different ways to survey anymore. We have scanning. It's just it's an amazing thing. It really is, and that's what we brought in a little scanner, a little scanner that day, and scanned the actual monument with a little BLK scanner, and so it's wide open. There's so many different ways. It's not just somebody standing behind an instrument or standing behind this thing taking pictures from what everybody always thought.
Right. Yep. Exactly.
It's the public. I try to express that it's you got a Google map on your phone that you're looking at. Well, it's based on a lot of it's based on surveying. I mean, it really is. You want to. It's all coordinates. It's all positionings. That's how it's all done with time, satellites, and so longitude, latitude. It's surveying. That's what surveying is. It's the future of a lot of new things. A lot of maps. The maps are all created from a surveyor.
Right.
Historically, they come up the rivers and started creating maps that way, and that's what the public really needs to see is there's a lot more to surveying than just running through the woods and looking through that instrument. So
Exactly. Well, I want to take a step back for a second in talking about the development of your career. And that's what I guess is the interesting thing to me when we're talking to fellow surveyors, talking to the public. That, I mean, typically, and your story said it, you were introduced to a surveyor. It's not like you said you saw it in a book somewhere and said, I want to be a surveyor. You had a surveyor say, hey, grab the legs and come with me. Trial by fire. But during your development as a surveyor, and you kind of laid that out, that we used to have ways, and you named all the people that were influences in your career, and going from Rodman, chainman, Rodman, instrument man, party chief, we had these steps going up. Whereas now it's, you get handed a $25,000 GPS rover, and it's like, no, go by yourself, go collect data, and really don't have that opportunity to learn. I guess, so from your perspective, how important is that mentoring? How important is that having those other influences from other surveyors and learning more about your craft?
I think it's very important. The mentoring is very important. The companionship, being with the younger surveyors, letting them know what the background of surveying is. It isn't like I was saying before, but it is a lot more involved now. There's a lot greater things than just that. But that was the background of surveying, and they should know that. They need to know that. Had a party chief draw the triangle on the dashboard. Just always had that triangle there, and so you just embedded that into my mind. It's surveying is triangles. I mean, that's what it is. A little bit of curves in there too, but it's all triangles. We learn that triangle, so learn those basics. You got to learn the basics, and it's very, very important that we do. Yeah, that's where we're at with that.
Yeah, because I wouldn't give up the technology for anything. Don't get me wrong, but I'm and I'm listening to the story of your career and thinking back to the day you said the days of the 3, 4, 5 men, 6 men crew, depending on the conditions, and it wasn't even just it was just, like you said, it was the camaraderie, and it was being able to take a little something from everyone, and you all shared in that, not just the experience, but you shared in the knowledge that somebody knew a little more than the other person, and you shared that, and you all grew together. I guess that's part of it that I miss, and I think that's something that we really need to we need to find a way back there, and so the newer generations of surveyors can learn where things need to be.
Yeah, I think we need to take the time. I mean, I know everything's busy. Everybody's busy. I've seen this so much. We don't have time to do that, but we do. We have to take that time. We do. We have to take the time to provide provide that background to especially the interested people that want to survey. Once you get them interested, just try to keep them. That's the part that's really difficult.
Exactly. Yep.
And it really gives me a lot of. I really feel really good whenever somebody comes to me and says they got their license, or that I've worked with in the past, and or I'm going to go try to get my license, or I'm going to go take this CST exam, and
right.
It's just a great feeling. Well, maybe I did say something that helped them through, that made them want to do this, so that's a good thing.
Chances are I would just I wouldn't bet against that there was some sliver of advice or some little bit of knowledge that you passed on somewhere down the road that kept them going, and I can see it, because I got to tell you, that's from the first time I talked to you, and we've been going back and forth on a few things. I love your passion. I love your enthusiasm, and I think there's a lot more of that we need to instill into the general public and to those next generations of, this is a great profession. It really truly is.
It really is. Yep.
Any advice for future surveyors? What anything you would impart them as just little nuggets to pass on?
Stick with it. Don't get discouraged. Things are working on. I know you can start off as a surveyor in surveying, having all this outlook in being a surveyor, and then there might be something else catch your eye. Civil engineering.
Yeah.
It kind of pulls our younger surveyors away. It's the pay.
Yeah, sometimes it depends.
But we're working at trying to get that a little higher too. I think is what we're seeing that happen, and it's working out. So just stick with it. Yeah, stick with it, and just I guess you gotta have that want to. That's for sure.
Sure. Last question I always ask of all of my guests: how does the future surveying look to you?
It's wide open. Like I said before, it's wide open. It's not just a job of sitting behind a desk or just being in the field. You can do both. That's the surveying. That's the great part about the surveying. That's out there, because we have so many different types of surveying. The technology. I mean, you can choose to be behind a desk taking care of things that way, and for a little while, then go out into the field. So it's both ways, and that's what's really nice about surveying in the future. I really don't know. I don't know. It's just
And that's a perfectly fine answer because, bottom line is we don't know what's around the corner for a lot of things. And I think, unfortunately, surveying falls in that same category with so many professions of where are we going to find the people? Where are we going to find the interest? And I think, what, if we knew that answer, we wouldn't be sitting here talking to each other. We'd be out there bazillionaires doing something else because we figured it all out. But no, we're going to get there. And
I
like I
think
said,
it's good. Yeah. I think it's got a good. I think it's got a good outlook. I really do. Just because of the different ways of surveying.
You
that's
bet.
where I'm at again.
Yep. Good. Well, Vince, I can't tell you. I can't thank you enough for taking the time to talk to me today about this thing, about your career, about all of the stuff that's going on in the surveying world that give us a little window of insight into being a land surveyor for the National Park Service, which, like I said, boy, I'm truly jealous of probably some of the boundaries you're able to retrace. It sounds like a blast. And thank you again for all of your help and foresight on putting things together for the student competition. Look forward to working with you on the 2024. It's going to be a doozy. It really is. And I'm hoping for good weather. That's all I ask.
That's right. Yeah, I know what you mean. That's what I've been thinking about. Been praying about that. So I'm hoping that's going to happen too.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you'll hear some more stuff coming up in future episodes about the student competition. We've got a few more tricks up our sleeve to announce as soon as we get some really cool things, initiatives and collaborations that we're working on. So, students, we're ready for you. Come out, see us, see Vince. We'll be around, and wherever you subscribe to the podcast, hit that subscribe button, and we will talk to you soon. Thank you. You've been listening to the Surveyor Says podcast, brought to you by the National Society of Professional Surveyors. If you have any questions about today's episode or any other topic, please email us at info@nsps.us.com, and we are here to help. Visit our website, nsps.us.com, to learn more about our association, the programs we administer and support, our sustaining members, and information about future episodes of Surveyor Says. Subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Spotify, as well as our podcast host, Podbean. And remember, it's a great day to be a surveyor.